This is serious business, folks. For him to even think that he has the ability, the charisma, the intelligence to hoodwink the Mexican Mafia. It just doesn't make sense. They don't come with a 22. They come with B-2 bombers. Here's the real bomb that we're going to drop today. They were playing hide the salami, and boom, 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 it's over. My name is Rene Enriquez, and you are watching Uncensored. This is serious business, folks. Exclusive content on somebody you have all heard about, who's been in the news, and who's placed himself in the news a number of times. Let's talk about Johnny Martinez, also known as Crow from Placentia, a Mexican Mafia member. His tenure is about 10 years old now, right? He's been a Cardinal about 10 years, thereabouts. And he's been under a cloud of controversy. Right? A cloud of controversy. The reality in the organization is that you can't survive controversy after controversy after controversy. You cannot survive that. That's not the way the organization is built. Believe you me, Johnny Martinez is being scrutinized by almost every Cardinal in the organization every time his name comes up. He's been involved in so much dirt. True or not, the mud is sticking to him a little bit. He may be able to wash it off by fighting it off in court, but a little bit of that dirt is sticking to his clothes. And everybody sees that. What's the first thing you think about when you think about Crow from Placentia? Everybody sees the media stuff, the Orange County RICO indictment. He's currently housed in Orange County fighting a RICO case. But everybody thinks about the CDC controversy. Everybody knows about that. Apparently, a CDC officer, while doing night rounds, was doing count, looked into the cell of Johnny Martinez and discovered him in his cell. Allegedly, the CDC officer asserts that he discovered Johnny Martinez and his cellie engaged in amorous behavior. I'm putting it lightly, right? That they were playing hide the salami. The officer documented it on a CDC 128, and Johnny Martinez immediately filed a CDC 602 and made appeal. I don't know whether he prevailed or not, and it doesn't really matter, not in the eyes of the organization. It doesn't matter if he prevailed or not. That stain is there, and everybody knows that. That's the first controversy I ever heard about Crow from Placentia. And I don't care whether he was doing it or not. I don't judge him. I truly don't. This isn't about throwing stones at Johnny Martinez. This is about giving him a warning. Now, I don't know any Cardinal that could sustain controversy after controversy after controversy. I don't know any member that has such political skill, such magnetism and charisma, and such juice that they could do this. I don't. And I don't think Johnny or Crow has the ability to survive this. And that's the intent of this video, that no man in the organization can sustain this kind of thing. And the only reason he's here today is because he's isolated from other Cardinals. That's my firm belief. I'm just calling it like I see it, right? I think that as soon as he goes back to the feds, or as soon as he goes back to the state, somebody's going to have something to say about all this stuff. Somebody's really going to have something to say about all this stuff, because he's been isolated, right? He's been separated from the Cardinals for years, and he may be around one or two that support him, but that's not always going to be the case, because every Cardinal in the organization has enemies. But before we get into that, let me encourage you to go check out Patreon, become a member. We have exclusive content there, and you can become a member of this channel. You could hit the like button, subscribe. You can also get signed copies of my book, While Supplies Last, of the Black Hand. Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/uncensored team to get your copy now. But the easiest way to support the channel is to watch the video in its entirety. And the hype button. I don't care how good you are. There are some people in the organization who don't like you. It's in life. That's a way of life. I don't care if you work in an office, at a warehouse, somebody at that job hates you, and they want to see you lose your job. It's no different in the organization. So what exempts Johnny Martinez from this? Nothing. And here the consequences are exponentially higher. They're not just going to talk bad about him and ostracize him. They're going to whack him at some point. That's my firm belief, right? Call me crazy. Call me misguided. Call me misinformed. I don't think I'm misinformed, but that's it. So there's this controversy. That's the first thing that pops up in everybody's mind when you think about Johnny Martinez, right? How he was discovered, participating in this behavior, allegedly by the CDC officer, and that he fought it. I don't know what the outcome of that was, and I tried my very best to get the paperwork. I know it's out there. I could get it, but it's really not necessary because we know it exists. Other content creators have put it out there, and it's not based on that. My story's not based on that. So here's the thing. Before Johnny Martinez ended up in Orange County Jail, he was serving a lengthy sentence. Before being federally indicted for racketeering, Johnny Martinez originally went back to court to petition and appeal his 1995 conviction for the March 31st, 1994 second-degree murder of an 18-year-old Ricky Michaels. The original case had legal change. The 1994 incident, Martinez was charged at 18 following a violent gang brawl in Placentia, in a Placentia apartment complex parking lot. He was not accused of being the person who actually stabbed Michaels, but was convicted under California's old natural and probable probable consequences legal theory. This rule held that any participant in a fight could face the same murder charge as the actual killer. So Johnny goes on appeal, and he does it on his own, in propria persona. It's called pro per, right? But the Latin name is in propria persona. So he does this. He gets in the legal books, smart guy, and he files his appeal. The successful appeal. Operating as a self-taught jailhouse lawyer, Martinez spent nearly 3 decades fighting the conviction. Following changes to the California state law that severely narrowed who can be held liable for murder committed by someone else, an Orange County Superior Court judge officially vacated his murder conviction in December 2023. Johnny Martinez was a free man. He had nothing pending above him, but he had become a member of the Mexican Mafia and was participating in RICO activities during the period of his incarceration. As smart as this guy is, he made serious blunders, and all of it was caught on wire. All of it was caught through the methods that law enforcement have to investigate people. Johnny Martinez, for being so intelligent, was literally burying himself. Okay, let's continue. Because his primary conviction was overturned, Martinez actually became eligible for bail on that original case. However, he remained incarcerated due to the sweeping federal racketeering and murder in aid of racketeering indictment that prosecutors brought against him for allegedly running the Mexican Mafia from his prison cell. And that's the truth. That's the truth. The feds indicted him. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stuff from Johnny Martinez himself, which is a shocker, right? And that's another controversy, right? But let me give you a video of the case they're talking about. Johnny Martinez allegedly ordered these individuals to go collect from this guy, and they end up eliminating him. So here is the video that was caught on security camera or ring camera of Johnny Martinez sending people over to this house, and they end up eliminating this individual as a result of his failure to pay or refusal to pay Johnny Martinez tax money. You can see these individuals armed, the victims on the floor. They had dragged him out of the house. They're assaulting him, and he attacks. He defends himself. He knows, hey, I got to fight. And boom, 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 it's over. They eliminate him. That's one of the charges he's indicted on. In fact, those individuals that participated in this case were just convicted. Here's a United States attorney's, a DOJ press release. 3OC gang member sentenced to life in prison for murdering a gangster who'd fallen afoul of Mexican Mafia. In Santa Ana, California, 3 Orange County street gang members were each sentenced today to life in federal prison for murdering a gangster in August 2017 who had come into conflict with a member of the Mexican Mafia prison gang. It names the individuals and goes on to discuss this case in depth. We will never tolerate violence ordered by imprisoned gangsters operating from behind bars, said First Assistant United States Attorney Bill Asaley. Today's life sentences demonstrate our commitment to holding these thugs accountable until their dying day. And you know what? That is the truth. I've said it 1,000 different times. People think that they're smarter than the United States government. People think that because they're articulate or intelligent that they can do whatever they want. And apparently, Johnny Martinez thinks he's smart. He thinks he's smart, and I think that's part of the problem. That's part of what brought about all this controversy for him. The United States Attorney and the United States government has all the time and all the resources at its disposal to bring down the people who are participating in criminal activity. That's just a reality. That's just a reality. So that's his problem now. He's facing a RICO case. If I was a wagering man, I would bet the ranch that Johnny Martinez will be convicted. He will be convicted. He will receive a life sentence. He will go to the feds. He will never see freedom ever in his life again. He will never see freedom ever in his life again, ever, because this is a life sentence, and the feds don't play. And there are a number of people cooperating against him. They have so much evidence that Johnny Martinez is finished. I mean, that's just a prediction, right? Here's the next controversy, the shocker of shockers, right? That Johnny Martinez goes on this media blitz, right? First, he does an interview with Matt Ormseth of Los Angeles Times. That's the headline up above. Supporters say warm-hearted, alleged Mexican Mafia member deserves bail. Wiretap reveals threats. And that's what I've been talking about all the time, right? That members and associates are wiretapped. They're recorded from wherever they're calling from, and they still continue to speak. And believe me, they have a voluminous amount of recordings. Martinez and everybody else involved in the case. I have nothing to do with this case. Absolutely nothing. But from the position that I'm sitting in, having cooperated in multiple cases, they did not bring him to trial to lose, and they will not lose. They will not lose. United States Attorney's Office has like a 98% conviction rate. So the odds are 2% Johnny Martinez will be exonerated and 98% that he will be convicted. So Johnny Martinez goes to Los Angeles Times and begins challenging the narrative that he's an innocent victim, that he deserves bail, that he's been persecuted by Orange County District Attorney's Office and the United States Attorney's Office and federal government, that they are corrupt, and on and on and on. And it just sounds ridiculous. Ridiculous. Here's a bona fide, made Mexican Mafia member trying to change the narrative in the media. It is ludicrous for him to even think that he has the ability, the charisma, the intelligence to hoodwink the public. I mean, it's farcical. It really is farcical. In fact, in this picture here depicted below, that's Johnny Martinez appearing on Hoodstocks with Lucky, right? They have Johnny Martinez's mom appeared on this, and you guys can go see it on Hoodstocks. I'm not going to show her a picture, nor am I going to name her. She is an activist. She has not participated in criminal activity, and what she does is a good thing for people, right? Nor am I going to name her husband because he's not involved in this, but Johnny Martinez is. But Johnny Martinez goes to this show. He goes to this show and does a lengthy interview. I could tell that Lucky was nervous. He had never had a made guy on his show. Unprecedented for his show. But it is the undoing of Johnny Martinez. The undoing. Because he may think it's cool, and the Cardinals around him that he told about it may think it's cool, but the organization doesn't think it's cool. Doing interviews with Los Angeles Times, doing interviews on social media. And I don't know what he thought. Maybe he thought the success of the hunger strikes and the social media blitz and everybody posting videos on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok because it was successful. That was successful. Maybe he thought he was going to replicate that same social media engine to get behind him. But Johnny Martinez has no societal support. It's in his head that he thinks he's a victim, right? I want you to hear some of the audio from Johnny Martinez, how he explains his case, how he's prosecuted, all this corruption in the Orange County District Attorney's Office, the United States Attorney's Office. I want you to hear his perception of why he's encountering all these problems. And at no point, there's no acceptance of responsibility. It's all wrong. It's all lies. It's all fake. It's all made up. That's the question I pose to the audience. If Johnny Martinez's assertion is correct, why is it so important for the government to go get him? Why is he so important to the United States government with all the terrorists, domestic terrorism, and foreign-born terrorism, and the huge crimes that are being committed by financial institutions and all these other places? Why is a simple gang member from Placentia being targeted by the United States government? What makes him so important? What makes Johnny Martinez? Why would they do this? It just doesn't make sense. You know, the math ain't mathin'. It ain't mathin', according to Johnny's assertions, right?
Tell you why. Because a lot of people in the prosecution team are Orange County Sheriff's Department who have a history of committing perjury, fraud. You know, they were involved in setting up. You know, they were involved in setting up inmates in the county jail with jailhouse to take confessions.
Yes.
And these deputies, deputies have perjury on their jackets, fraud, but they're not prosecuted. You know, and it's the irony of it is the United States Department of Justice said they were going to investigate and prosecute them, but they never did. And this is why. Because the feds, they were the ones sending the informants over there.
So he's talking about the Orange County informant scandal in the Scott DeCry case and the whole thing that blew up in Orange County, right? Johnny Martinez is replicating that, attempting to use it and say, that's what they're doing to me. Not the case, Johnny. Not the case at all. Not the case. Because an organization has been involved in corruption or some misbehavior and was admonished does not disqualify the entire judicial system. And Orange County District Attorney's Office is separate from the United States Attorney's Office, the individuals prosecuting you. And they were not involved in that scandal at all.
They're just as guilty as they. So, you know, how are they going to prosecute the deputies when they're involved in the same behavior, if not worse?
Exactly. They're sending these guys over that are basically jailhouse snitches. I mean, what kind of credibility do they have, right? And they're sending them in to get information. This is what we're talking about? Am I hearing you right, Johnny?
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
So what they're talking about is Perkins ops, right? A Perkins op is when they send somebody to a specific location in an attempt to gain information, right? But they can't do it to inmates who've been charged already. There's a whole protocol now because that individual that goes in the Perkins op, the informant, is an agent of the law enforcement agency that's sending them in there, right? So there's a whole protocol, right? And that's not what's happening in Johnny Martinez's case, right? He's trying to paint that. And it may have happened somewhere early in his incarceration where inmates were providing information on him. I have nothing to do with with this case. I don't know what the discovery is, and I don't know what the evidence is against him. I just know that the United States government is ready to prosecute him, and they will prosecute him. And it's going to be a lot more than jailhouse snitches. A lot more than that. They don't come with a 22. They come with B-2 bombers. When the feds indict, they're ready to take you down. He does this whole song and dance about how innocent he is and how he deserves bail, and it's wrong. And for me, I just see this as he's attempting to change the narrative, right? He's attempting to change the narrative away from the fact that he's a Mexican Mafia member. He wants the public to believe that he's being persecuted by the United States Attorney's Office or the federal government, and he doesn't deserve this. And it sounds whiny. It sounds freaking whiny, right? Just saying it just like it is. Sounds whiny. And I don't know what possessed him to go on this blitz, right? He's since stopped. Somebody must have checked him and told me, hey, what the F you doing? You are tripping, fool. Because it doesn't look good for the organization. It doesn't sound good coming from a Cardinal like this. It just doesn't. I've seen other Cardinals do interviews, and it's on a whole different topic, right? This revolves around the Mexican Mafia. Those other interviews I've seen had nothing to do with the Mexican Mafia. This entire interview revolves around the Mexican Mafia. He's just not saying it. Everybody knows it, that he's a Cardinal. He's being held to answer for RICO activities because he's a Mexican Mafia member, and he's trying to shift blame to law enforcement, saying this is all wrong. They are prosecuting me, and I have nothing to do with this. I'm Johnny Martinez, the Cub Scout. I have done nothing wrong. And I get it. I get it. I get it. You know, I get it. He's trying to change the narrative. Here's the real bomb that we're going to drop today. And this came from a defendant in court. I blocked his name out. You can obviously see that. This is a real court document. It's public record in which the individual filed a motion in court. It's a petition for return of property unlawfully seized. Individual representing himself in propria persona in Orange County, who discovered a document that is mind-blowing, right? Mind-blowing. So you have the controversy of the CDC. You have the indictment that brings all this federal focus. Then you have Johnny Martinez doing interviews with national media, world media, Los Angeles Times world media, right? And he goes on there and has the audacity to speak to a reporter about the mob, about his case. And has the audacity to speak to a reporter about the mob, about his case. And then he goes on Hoodstocks and does the same thing, attempting to change the narrative. Those are huge controversies. And then this pops up. And I think this is the straw that breaks his back. This is the straw that breaks his back. Because this is public record, right? I'm not pulling anything that's been sealed. I'm not doing that. I wouldn't do that, right? But this document is the cover sheet of a motion that was filed by an inmate in pro per. And in that motion was this. It's an internal memo from Orange County Sheriff's Department. In it, it says, we have been informed by our confidential informant, Johnny Martinez, booking number 3043684, that a serious threat to his safety and to his information gathering activities has emerged and is ongoing. According to C.I. Martinez, the serious threat to his safety and to his information gathering activities comes from inmate who is a current active member of the Mexican Mafia and is known as C.I. Martinez believes that inmate in the general population will undoubtedly endanger his safety and information gathering activities. Due to CI Johnny Martinez, who is known as Crow, ongoing reliability as our main source of information, and because of ongoing investigations where informant Martinez assistance is needed, it is recommended that inmate be kept separately from the rest of the jail's population by reclassifying inmate or rehousing inmate in order to ensure the safety of C.I. Martinez and his ongoing information gathering activities. Pursuant to Government Code Section 254F 525-4K, the Evidence Code Section 1040, this memorandum and its written contents shall not be disclosed in any manner. Disclosure of this document can compromise the safety of the confidential informant Johnny Martinez and his information gathering activities, in addition to multiple ongoing investigations. And you clearly see on the side of that document, it's Exhibit 1. It was to custody operations from Director Nora M. Cook Special Housing Unit. And it was created in April 23rd, 2023. And it's NRA Confidential Informant Johnny Martinez. It's on their official letterhead. It's a real document. It is part of an exhibit in this motion and was filed in public court. It was not sealed. So this is public record and it's out there. It's out there, right? So consider all these controversies of Johnny Martinez. The issue of him and the CDC laying with a celly and an officer documenting that, whether he beat it or not, it's still there. The issue of the Los Angeles Times interview, that's world media, that Johnny Martinez went and discussed his case in the Mexican Mafia on this interview, right? He doesn't disclose anything internal about the Mexican Mafia, just the cases, the circumstances involved in his case. Then he goes on Hoodstocks and does the same thing. And all this swirls around the mob. Everybody knows he's a mobster. That's why Lucky's so nervous in the interview on Hoodstocks, because it's a real mobster calling his show. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. That's an unprecedented interview. And then there's this that pops out. I mean, how many controversies? And this is a doozy right here. This is a doozy. Because even if Johnny Martinez fights this and suppresses it in court, and the courts suppress any mention of him being an informant, it's still stuck on him. It's the smear and the stench is still on him. And I don't think he can survive all of this. So that's the intent of this video. Not to pull covers, right? Not to throw mud at the guy. I had plenty of controversies, just like Johnny, right? I had plenty of controversies, right? Just like Johnny, right? I had plenty of controversies, right? And I couldn't survive those. I know I couldn't, right? At some point, it becomes too much. And it's just easier to eliminate somebody. Even with his support and his best friends, they're going to abandon him at some point. That's just the way of the organization. It's a truth. It's a truism. That it's easier to eliminate people than to constantly defend them. And think of Johnny's supporters in the organization. They're constantly having to do this battle for him. At some point, they're going to fatigue and say, you know what, man? I'm done with this. Old boy doesn't know how to keep his face out of the limelight. And it seems that Johnny Martinez cannot shut the F up. Just shut the F up. See the writing on the wall. Get out while the getting's good, because you still have a chance. You have not been convicted yet. And if you have not been convicted, there's always wiggle room. I know that's a harsh consideration, right? Not trying to convince you to do anything. Live your life, bro. You want to be a G, be a G. But this is huge. All these controversies compiled and weighing together. Nobody could survive all this. With that said, folks, that's the episode. Straight, exclusive, hot off the press. As always, stay safe. Peace out.